everyone. I'm Clary Harmon Hoskins, and I work here at the U.S. Embassy Monrovia. I'm here to deal with Michael Murphy. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Clary. How are you?
Michael is one of the consular officers here at the U.S. Embassy Monrovia, and we're here today to share information about the diversity visa application program that is coming up soon. Michael, thanks for taking up time to share this information that are important, and it's great having you.
Of course. I'm just so happy to be here.
So before we ask the questions around the actual DV process, just wondering, what is the difference between a diversity visa and other visas?
That's a great question. So as you know, America is made up of a diverse group of people. We have immigrants from across the world. But there are some parts of the world that do not immigrate to the Americas at the same rate as others. And so the idea of the diversity visa program is to attract immigrants from countries that are generally underrepresented in the demography of the United States. And so luckily, Liberia is one of those countries. That list of countries changes over time based on the percentage of people in the United States that come from those countries. And so Liberia has historically been underrepresented in immigration to the States. Other types of visas are based on your family relationships, work relationships, or visiting the United States with not the intention to stay. And so those are different types of visas. But this one is particularly targeted on bringing people to the United States from countries that don't have a lot of representation in the United States to help our diversity.
So when will the next DV application process begin?
And we don't know exactly the date now, but we should learn in the next couple of weeks. But generally, the window opens the first week of October till either the first or the second week of November. Once those exact dates come out, we'll advertise to the public.
So how many persons have been selected so far from Liberia? Do you have an idea? Or can you share with us how many persons they will be selected in the next entry?
Sure. So we don't know the exact number, but worldwide there are 55,000 DV selectees. Now, more than that apply, but only 55,000 are selected. And then there's this formula that the State Department uses to determine how many from each country. And so, for example, this year we may have had 600 from Liberia, but next year it could be more or it could be less, based on the number of Liberians who have immigrated to the United States versus the rest of the population. And so we don't know exactly, and that number will be kind of fed to us through the process, but I can't really give you an exact number.
Thank you. That's enough information. So is there an age requirement for entering the DV process?
So there's not, but there is a requirement that you have to have a high school graduation diploma or the equivalent of it. And so generally, the minimum age is about 18, because at that age is when people graduate high school, and you have to have a high school education or the equivalency or more.
This is wonderful to know, and thank you again for joining us.
You're very welcome. This is lovely.
A lot of good information is coming up. Michael, how much does it cost to enter the DV process?
So the actual application is free, and I don't want anybody to think, and I don't want anybody to be told that you have to pay to enter. And so we do hear of people saying, oh, I had to pay a broker or an agency, and that's not the case. It's absolutely free. However, if you are selected, then the fee per person as of 2022 is $330 per applicant. And you pay that after you're selected and after you have an interview date at the embassy. You make that payment at the embassy, not to anyone else. We actually take the money here. We have a cashier. And so if anybody tells you that you have to pay for something related to the DV application, they're not being truthful. However, you will have to pay for your own medical checkup. Will select you what we call the panel physician. There's a certain number of doctors that you go to, and any other like civil documents, like if you have to pay for a birth certificate or a replacement marriage certificate, some of that, that's something that each applicant will have to pay. So, for example, you have a family of a mom, a dad, and 2 children. That would be 4 people times 330. And so the only other fees, like I said, were for the medical checkup and for any civil documents, to include birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce certificates, and on the rare occasion, a death certificate.
So please remember to always check up and pay fees at the U.S. Embassy once it comes to DV process. If I got married after I entered the DV, and this is a hypothetical situation. So, say I entered DV and then I got married, or maybe nature happy and then I have a child.
Sure.
Can I include my spouse or my child even after I've done the DV entry?
So that's a great question. And so we know life happens, and life happens at its own rate. And so if you enter the DV process and then you acquire a child, and we know that happens, or you get married after, you can add them to your entry. But when you do that, you have to do another application, and you'll have to pay the additional fee. So, for example, if you get married after, please, when you come to interview, bring some proof of your relationship, that you knew this person prior to your entry, that it's been a developing relationship, and then you decided to get married. And so that's very important. And as far as children, bring proof of your relationship to that child, a birth certificate, or it should be clear that this child is yours, and it has to be either a biological child, an adopted child, or a stepchild.
Thank you, Michael. So for the 2022 DV process, when should we expect to start checking results or know if we selected?
Great question. So in May or June of 2023, each individual applicant will be notified that they've been selected. Then the process of setting up an interview will happen. So if somebody applies this year, 2022 in October, it'll be May or June of 2023, but the interview won't happen until 2024. People are notified on a rolling basis, so not everybody's going to know on the first day. And don't panic if you don't find out in May or June, because you could be notified later, potentially September, October, any month after that. So keep your hopes up. If you don't get selected right away, it doesn't mean you won't get selected. And so we advise people to check constantly the status, because it could happen. And if you give up, or you don't check your email, you don't check the status of your application, and you miss your appointment, there's nothing really we can do about that.
So, for example, another hypothetical situation again. So, me and my derivatives, we sort of were selected for DV. We went through all of the processes, but then my spouse got his visa and everything, and then I went on administrative processing. When should I know that this processing has ended, or how can I check on the process of administrative processing for DV?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So once interviews happen and you come in, every visa has to be issued by the last day of the fiscal year. So it'll be September 30th of each year. If in that situation which you described, one of the people on the entry gets issued and the other one is still waiting, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. The person who was issued can immigrate to the United States using that visa. They would then have to petition for that family member who was waiting and eventually was issued, or was out of administrative processing. It would be basically like starting the process over, but not as a DV, but through what's called the I-130 process through USCIS. And unfortunately, there's just nothing we can do. The DV visas have to be issued by the 30th of September of the year of the interviews.
So, again, we were selected. I do not have enough money to pay for the visas and all of the other application fees, but then I need to go, right? So can my spouse or my derivatives join me later once I leave?
That's another very good question. So if they're not issued by the 30th of September of the year of your interview, if you got your visa, you could go to the States. You then apply to become a legal permanent resident. As a legal permanent resident, you could petition using the I-130 form through the USCIS for your family members. But once the DV season is over, once 30 September passes, if they are not issued, they cannot follow you on that visa. It's like starting the process over again. And remember, if you immigrate to the United States through the DV program, you then become a legal permanent resident. And as a legal permanent resident, you can petition for your family to come to the United States. And so that's the process you would have to follow. Please know that process is not quick, and it will take a while, and you'll have to pay petition fees and some other fees associated with that. But if the situation is as you described it, yes, you can go to the States and petition for your family to follow.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you again for joining us. And this has been a wonderful conversation. I know we have loads of questions out there, but is there anything else you want to add?
Yes, we think about this, and we're doing our interviews now for this year, for the 2022 season. And one of the things we stress is that by law, you have to list any spouses or children that you have, and that includes biological children, stepchildren, or adopted children. For some reason, we're encountering applicants who don't list their children, and so if you don't, then you are disqualified. You have to list them, and I don't know why people think they shouldn't list their children. Even if you were never married, if you are the mother or the father of a child, you have to list them on your application. We can give you more information about this. We do have a great website, and we'll give that to you as part of this presentation. Please go on there and check. There's a lot of good information. One of the things we recommend is get your information from the U.S. government, from the State Department, from our website, and not from local agencies or people who are helping you out because they know better. Please just follow the rules. They're quite straightforward, and there's an unfortunate number of people that we have to deny their visas because they didn't follow the instructions. So please do read the instructions, really pay attention, list everybody that you're related to, and establish your legal relationship with the people who are, like if you're the primary applicant, all the people who you're applying with. And so I really hope that helps. If you have anything else, I think that really was a wonderful interview, and I really appreciate all your questions.
It helped a lot. Thank you again. We appreciate you being with us here today. And like